sacrifices, play this game. I done prayed that my life would never be the same. I done prayed that I will make it bring glory to my name.
Do you have a game time in the hip hop?
No, dude, you feel like that the PFL, we're talking about this before we went live here. Do you feel like that's like similar to kind of watching the XFL, right? Because it's still football.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just there. It's just not the UFC.
Right, right. And for people, we're talking about the PFL, the Professional Fight League, which is like a new league that's on like national TV, like ESPN, just like there's no pay-per-view paywall to watch it. What I do like though, they're struck, so it's kind of like the XFL. Their rules are a little different, but it might be something the UFC might test out to where they have there's a regular season and your record determines your rankings, and they have a tournament for the champion.
That's kind of sick.
So I was like, dang. But so it's a lot, it's a lot more fair in terms of
problem with that, Finis. Problem with that is, let's say that you go into the tournament in the first round, you fight some kid or whatnot, and what happens if you get a brutal fucking 5-round bout where the winner's coming out with broken fucking ribs and a fucked up arm, but he still won the fight and he's got to advance, but he can't fight again for 6 months. How do you do a tournament that way? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know how long how long in between fights is for the tournament, but they were saying the guy was talking about that had the 12 knockouts. He was on. It was kind of like an Ultimate Fighter, but like a lower level Ultimate Fighter, something that they had, and was saying that it's a 5-fight tournament, and it's all within like a weekend type shit. So, and he had this guy had won that tournament at this to make it to the PFL kind of thing. So it's interesting because it's like, yeah, if you break a hand, like, what do you do? But
yeah, I guess the problem with those, and you got Bellator too, but the problem with that is that those guys in PFL and Bellator, the first fucking opportunity that they get to go to the UFC, they're going to take it.
Oh, yeah,
right?
For sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where it's not like college football. We get good college football because they have to fucking stay there for 3 years, right? Like the best can't leave for 3 years. I'm sure there's always a way out of a fucking contract for those Bellator and PFL fighters. So let's talk about this, Finis. I kind of alluded to it in the group message, and maybe we can talk about this as in sports in general. And Charles Barkley was talking about it, and I think I agree with him. Do you think that teams can just turn it on?
Oh, I saw that they were talking about.
That's the best show on TV, by the way. It's not even close, man.
Oh, after I forget the name of the
Inside the NBA.
Inside the NBA. They won awards for it too. Everything. It's awesome.
Oh yeah.
But after games, I'll literally just keep it on to watch Inside the NBA after the game, just because it's entertaining.
It's better than the game itself.
Yeah,
most of the time it's better than the game itself.
If it's on TNT, I don't care who's playing. I'm watching it because it's Inside the NBA.
Exactly.
Literally. That's a good question because, I think more times than not, no. I don't think teams can.
It just seems like that the only team or one of the only teams that would be the Warriors, right? If there's a team that could turn it on, it would be the Warriors.
Right.
But they're going up against Sacramento, bro. These cats have been playing like their lives were on the line for this whole season, right? Yeah. Just fucking scrappy, sprinting the floor, just fucking wanting to win every single game. And then you come with an almost, I don't want to say complacent, but I'm going to say complacent Warriors team. Knows they're the best. They've been the best. Walking into that Lions den, bro, I still think it'll go 7. I think Warriors will win all their home games. I don't think that they'll lose a game at home, but I don't know, man. Like it's not surprising to me that the Warriors dropped the first 2 to the Kings.
Yeah, I think in general, no. I don't think you can. In certain situations, I think you can. Like if the Bucks were about to play the Rockets, I don't think they won 20 games this season. Or a team like that, bottom totem pole team, then I think they can kind of just go in and then just turn it on to get the dub. I think it does depend who you play against. In the playoffs, no, I don't think you can. Maybe you could turn it on in a series, but I don't think you can turn it on and off game by game. No.
So you're saying like if you're gonna quote unquote, it's kind of hard to define what we mean by turn it on, but like play well, play hard, right? Play with purpose. You need to make that switch like a little bit after the All-Star break, or like 3 weeks before the playoffs, or 4 weeks before the playoffs, right? Rather than getting into the first round.
Right, leading up to the dance. That's right.
Holy fuck! I didn't know that Suns game was on. Yeah, let's talk about that now, because this is going to completely destroy the argument. Kawhi's just turning it on, which we knew he would, but Kawhi just turned it on game one. I guarantee he's going to drop another fucking 35 here.
But is he? Is he just now turning it on? Because if you watch the Clippers leading up, Kawhi's been dropping quiet 35, 40 plus point games.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anybody in the league that's gonna ruin this for Kevin Durant to just go to this stacked ass team, he's playing them right now. It's Kawhi. That's Kawhi's job, bro. That is what he's known for. Is just ruining shit.
Oh yeah, when he was with Toronto, ruined it for. I mean,
ruined the Heat with the Spurs.
Yeah, with the Spurs, he. I think that year Toronto won. I think it changed the dynamic of, because it showed that you didn't need a super team. At the time, it was all about super teams. Warriors, Miami, was LeBron at Cleveland? No, he was with Miami with
Toronto.
Yeah, when Toronto won,
it was
LeBron.
It probably was LeBron's first year on the Lakers. It was when he tore his groin. Yeah, 2019.
So sometimes I get mixed up, but it was even then it was all about super teams that you had to make to win, quote unquote. And then take a guy like that Toronto team, I don't think anybody would consider them a super team. And it showed that it could still run. And then that's when you have the Milwaukee Bucks making a run. I wouldn't consider that team a super team either.
Let's not act like the KD didn't tear his Achilles and the fucking Klay Thompson didn't snap his ACL during that playoff run, though.
No, I agree, but they didn't win.
No, that's true. That's true. But that asterisk has to be there. There is no way Toronto's beating them with a healthy KD and Klay.
No.
There's not a fucking chance.
I don't asterisk any championship. I don't asterisk because they still have to get through a plethora of other teams before even getting them, regardless of who they played and who wasn't playing. But since we're talking about Clippers, let's talk about this. I have to bring this up. So I cannot stand for the slander, but we're going to keep it. You already know where I'm going. Russell Westbrook, game Clippers versus Phoenix, had a very rough shooting day. Very rough, right? But defensively and distributing ball, my God, it blows my mind. Conversation with some of my friends. It's crazy how a guy can go 3 for 19. Terrible shooting. I will agree with that. That's not the argument. Terrible shooting. Just could not get it to drop. He was the reason the Clippers won that first. He the primary defense for the first half, which I was like, that's a weird defensive match. Let's be honest. Westbrook is a great on-ball defender. His defense slacked with the Lakers, whatever. But in general, when you motivate him to play defense, he's a great on-ball defender. He held KD to 0 points in the first half. I believe there was one span he didn't take a shot attempt because Westbrook was clamps on that ass.
KD had 0 points or just 0 points versus Westbrook?
I'm pretty sure. I don't even remember. I remember watching the commentators bring up the stats at the time, and they said he had no points. I think he didn't have a bucket. I don't remember specific because I don't want to get called out. I don't know. But I just know that he was clamps on KD. And at one point, he didn't attempt a shot with Westbrook on him because Westbrook was in there. And he was all over offensive rebounds, steals. He had 4 blocks. And they were crucial blocks. He had I think he hit double-digit assists. I'm pretty sure. I just want to state that we're gonna if we're gonna call out Westbrook when he plays bad, we should out when he plays. I don't even want to say plays when he plays well. He didn't shoot well, but his defense and his presence in distributing the ball was fantastic. And I think that's one of the reasons why they won.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that. I just still think that he's too much of a loose cannon. I get that. It's just the way he plays basketball. You either live with it or you don't.
I like his role with the Clippers though, because
I don't really see what is his role with the Clippers. Same thing he was doing with the Lakers.
no, to me, I see it's a little different to me because one, he starts. He's not coming off the bench, so he doesn't have to battle that mental battle of accepting coming off because that still messes with you mentally. But even though he is the quote unquote point guard, when you have obviously Paul George is hurt, but I'm talking about in general, he's been with the Clippers. He's not really. They still want Russ to be Russ. They want him to be aggressive, get to the basket, but they're not pressuring him to be this because with the Lakers, they were trying to get him. They're having him stand in the corner, like corner three pocket that's where you want to put your shooters. So on a drive, you can dish it out. But you got Westbrook there when we know he's not known for a 3-point shooter. With the Clippers, he's their primary guard. Like I feel like with the Clippers, his primary role is on a defensive standpoint at the guard position. See, because when he gets the ball, a lot of the time it just looks different from when he was with the Lakers.
Yeah.
So with the Lakers, even when he came off the bench, they expected him to drop 20 plus points because he was the primary scorer when he was coming off the bench. Like he was looked to be, okay, you're our guy, go get it. But that didn't fit for him. With the Clippers, it's, hey, if you got it, take it. But if not, no pressure. We got guys that can help. And Clippers have better perimeter shooting. So when Westbrook does get in, he has no problem dishing it out. And he has guys around him that can actually knock down. That's why he's also doing better in the assist category.
But there's still no reason, Finis. My problem is that there's no reason that he should have been taking 19 shots. He's not a 19 shot a game guy, right? If everything that you're saying is true, he should be in that like 9 to 11 range, right? We would want him to go 1 for 3 from 3-pointers and like 4 or 5 and 10 from the field, right? Like that's what he should be. He should be on-ball defender, a distributor of the ball, and get the offense going. I don't need him taking 19 shots in any scenario, especially with the talent that he has around him. There's no reason he should be putting up 19 shots.
Well, we say that now because he just played bad shooting 19. I'm sure since he's been with the Clippers, we can go pull up different game logs, and I'm sure there's been games he's putting up close to 19 where he's performed a lot better.
He had that 140. He had that 140-point game. He had that 140-point game.
I'm saying like he's always been a high volume shot taker though. Like that's not like it's out of the ordinary for his game. And
I know, but his game's got to evolve though. It's got to evolve with where he's at.
There, he just caused another turnover on KD. It's crazy. I get what you're saying, but I mean the 3-point shots he takes, I'm completely against him taking threes at this point. I'm not upset at the mid-range shots he takes. Because a lot of it, and with another thing with the Lakers, he was forcing a lot of these shots where you're like, what are you doing? With the Clippers, a lot of the shots he's taking, they're open threes, which I don't agree with. Not 3-point shoot, don't take them. But they're open threes. Or they're open mid-range pull-ups, open mid-range looks, or they're drives that he takes that he just misses, which is different. The Lakers, he was forcing a ton of shots or taking these contested terrible shots that you're like, terrible shot selection. His shot selections are better with the Clippers. It's just some games he's just off on the shot. But that 19, that's not his normal game since he's been with the Clippers. That's an outlier. But it's just you got to highlight the 3 for 19 if we're going to highlight him in that game. I'm going to highlight the 3 for 19. I'm going to keep it both ways.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
I think that he needs to. What point is he fucking 2 of 10 and realizes that, hey, it's not my night shooting? As a basketball player, like you're not Steph. You know you're not Steph, right? You know you're not these guys that are gonna. You're not a Dame that's just gonna fucking shoot himself out of a bad shooting slump. That's just, and it's never been Westbrook, right? He's never been able to shoot himself out of shooting slumps.
No. Well,
So I mean, like,
I would say never.
At what point does your basketball IQ? I mean, how old is he? He's got to be what, 32, 31?
He's 34, 35.
Yeah. At what point does his basketball IQ need to take over from his just fucking almost what a honey badger? He's like a honey badger, right? Just fucking go,
Right.
attack. At what point does his basketball IQ need to come in and say, hey, I have Kawhi Leonard on my team that dropped 38 points with me taking 19 shots. I wonder how many he would have dropped if I would have taken 12, right? If Kawhi got those 7 shots instead of I got those 7 shots. You know what I'm saying?
No.
I don't know. It's like, it's so frustrating with him, man, because he has great basketball IQ, and he also has the worst basketball IQ that I've ever seen on any player ever. Like, he knows how to distribute the ball. He knows how to draw in the defense and kick it out. He knows how to get to his move and get to his spot and then where everybody else is going to be. But he just doesn't fucking do it, man. Like, it drives me up the fucking wall, man.
Well, to play devil's advocate, first of all, you know the saying, shooters keep shooting. Now
he's not a shooter. He's not a shooter.
I know it was coming. I knew exactly what was coming. But he does know that when he's having a bad shooting game, does that mean you want him to not be aggressive? Because when he's having a bad shooting game, he still tries to get to the basket. Now sometimes they don't go in the basket because I think the 3 he had were at the basket. So, but you still want him to be aggressive because that's how he was able to draw the foul to get those crucial free throws late in the game. But I don't know.
The problem is, Finis, I think that a lot of his missed shots come from when he's at the basket. I think he misses a lot of layups compared to, what was his stats? I bet you he didn't shoot more than 4 threes. I bet you he wasn't out there trying to do that shit.
No, he does miss a lot of shots at the rim. I mean, that's what happens when you're challenging guys who are 7 feet and you're 6'4". But I'd rather have that, stay aggressive and miss shots at the rim. I'd rather have that than the opposite, where you just shoot yourself into depression. Because at least draw a foul.
So he took 19 shots versus the Suns. This is just his running total for his last game. 19, 19, 14, 12, 18, 8, 18, 11, 12, 13. So I guess he does have those games where he'll just decide 18 shots. He had what? He does live with the Clippers. It looks like he lives in that 10 to 13 shots. But he's 34, by the way. He's got to realize when it's not his night, right? And it doesn't seem like that he does.
I don't know. Hey,
I got a question for you, Finis.
He's got 5 points though. What's up?
I'm going to completely get away from this, and this topic. I don't know if it'll get us into trouble, but I'm curious to know your thoughts on this. Yeah, you've seen the stats. I'm not gonna give the exact percentages, but I will say that they're higher. Men do not graduate college. Women graduate college at a higher rate than men.
Right. I've seen that. Yes.
Men commit suicide at a higher rate. Men are far more likely to have violent crime than a woman. 98% of all mass shooters are men. Like 60%, a much higher percent of men use the what is it, the 72 rule, where they have to put you away for suicide or whatnot. The hospital 72 hour where the hospital will take you and you're not allowed to, something like that, is used on men more often. Men are more likely to live with their parents after the age of 30 than women. Men are more likely not to be married than women. Why? What do you think? Right, because it's a problem. If we look at stats, and all these stats are pointing, and the one that really gets me is the violent crime and the suicides, and we'll just say the violent crime, suicides, and the mass shooters. Right, that counts as violent crime. we see those stats as a society, right? And we accept that those stats are just because it's men, right? We don't look at those stats and say, hey, we have a problem with men in this country right now, right? And in the world, right? It's two men talking, right? And a lot of people will say it's the feminist agenda, right? It's the feminist agenda that's taken away from men, that's causing men not to have purpose or whatever, that's causing all these problems. Could that be a part of the problem? I don't know. Maybe. But as two men sitting here talking, what do you think is the sole reason behind an issue? And it's an actual issue, right? Like it's a real thing. It's a real problem that's happening that nobody's really spending the time of day to think about. Why do you think it is?
It's a great question. And
should I have saved this question for when we had Calvin and Mark on?
I mean, we could bring it back up.
Yeah.
Their opinions are, but I think that it is. I think it's a problem because I think it stems from society, and by that, I to dig into that, I mean that you look at across the board generally. Obviously, there's some exceptions, there's outliers, and it varies person to person. But in general, in America, men are always held to a higher standard for a lot of different things. When there's a tragedy, women and children first. It's like that. Back in obviously 2023, it's a little more. We have more knowledge, it's a little more progressive. But I'm talking in general, from let's just say, I don't know, for the past couple hundred years, traditionally men are supposed to not show emotion. They're supposed to be. They're not supposed to cry. They're supposed to keep their feelings inside, and that builds up. A lot of this goes back to mental health, the suicide. You know, we're not supposed to seeking help. It's a sign of weakness. They're taught as kids that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to show emotions. It's okay to reach out. So I think a lot of it stems from mental health, and just that I don't know about the violent crime standpoint, but I know from the suicide and the mental health aspect, a lot of that just being held to a higher standard. And you know, when I believe the majority of homeless population is men, a lot of men that drug abusers are, which the whole drug and homeless thing can be, you know, it's a whole nother thing to talk about. Why that people that come back from the military end up homeless because of lack of resources, from getting acclimated to civilian lifestyles, or not being able to get certain things in terms of health care or things like to that nature, and they end up either on the streets or trying to self-medicate their problems and end up either homeless or in situations where they're at a disadvantage. I feel like it's so many things that is just stemmed upon either systematic problems or just how society views men, and that in turns how we view ourselves, because we're expected to be up here above everything else.
So what about so take away the suicide, take away the men abuse drugs at a much higher rate than women do. So take away those stats. What about men not graduating college as much as women? Men living at home after the age of 30 more than women at a very, very higher at a much higher rate than women. Men not like I'm drawing a blank on the last stat that I was going to bring up, but yeah, so men not graduating college, men living with their parents, men not getting married at all higher rates than women. What about that, right? Because does that deal with mental illness?
I think it could play a factor. I guess I can try to break it down one by each one. The college one's interesting, right? Because the college was interesting because it's so loaded, you know, because then there's the whole thing with the pay gap. When in reality, the pay gap, I'm not saying it's a myth, but
it's a myth.
But you see, there's a whole lot of things that go into it, because women prefer different types of jobs than men. Men generally go for higher paying jobs than women in general, but also men will choose jobs that require higher harder educations than some women. The education one, I don't know, maybe because men generally choose harder educations, or there are more men pursuing higher degrees and higher educations, which are harder. Therefore, there's by the stats, you have more men that aren't graduating because they have to drop out, or a lot of dropouts could be due to mental health, things like that, or it's tough. What was the other one? Staying at home. I know the dating one. I can talk on the dating one. I can talk on the dating one because as a middle, I guess I'm not middle aged. I'm young because I'm under 30. As a 27-year-old male, I can tell you the dating scene, it is tough. I think
atrocious.
Majority of the dating scene, I think, has the problem is social media. Women expect these unrealistic lifestyles, or these unrealistic expectations that they expect men to do. That's completely just not reality. They're seeing this stuff on social media or from celebrities, or people that are just in a completely different social class. I think that a man that it's your normal, or I don't want to say normal, but in your middle class working 9-to-5 job, that's none of that. A lot of stuff's not realistic. They want this, they want that, they want this, and when they want that, a lot of them, they don't bring anything to the table. So not only are we the ones that are supposed to provide, we're supposed to provide, take care of them. If they want to have kids, we got to take care of them and the kids. We're supposed to do all this stuff while at the same time not showing vulnerability. We got to stay strong for the family. We can't be weak. We can't show any signs of weakness. And that messes with you mentally because you got kids and a wife that look up to you and you can't show any weakness. Well, who do you go to help? No one. That's where the mental health comes in. But even before you get to all of that, it's just the expectations of how men are supposed to be so rich. Well, like, I don't know if you've seen this reel, but this guy interviewed women. He's like, what do you think the average income for a male is, or whatever? Like the average income for a guy in his like 20, I think they were doing based off of age. Everybody was around the same age, so like 25 to 30. They were like 80K, 90K, whatever. It was like 30K, 40K. It's like you have no real grip on reality. So when you try to get into the dating scene, oh no, it's just, I think that's part of it. And then I think another part is like me, where people that, if you're a man that's going for a higher education, it's going to take you a little longer to get into your career. So you might have, I might, like if I was still in Tennessee, I'd still be living with my mom now, and I'm 27. I'd still be living at home because I'm still in school trying to get to my career. But it's just going to take 10 years from graduating high school. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Versus some with 2 years to get associates or 4 years to get their bachelor's, that, they stop there, they get to the careers. By the time I graduate, they've already been working for 5 years, got their own house, and got married, had kids by now, yada, yada. Well, I'm still I'm still trying to graduate college again. So I think relationship wise, some of those might be some big factors into why that's that. But yeah, I mean, there's so much. I don't know. I'd love to actually read like studies, credible studies, because I also have a thing with studies and how a lot of them are just straight bullshit. But I'd like to read some credible studies on why.
Even the peer reviewed ones?
Huh?
Even peer reviewed studies?
It depends who's reviewing them. Yeah, even peer reviewers are a little more credible just because, somebody has looked over their stuff, but I could write a paper and have it peer reviewed, but I just make sure that it's reviewed. I mean, it depends on the peer review process. Obviously, it's obviously a little more credible, but these reviews that are paid for by certain people to be reviewed by very specific people, then obviously, if I wanted to fake my credibility, I'd write a paper and then have it reviewed by someone I know is the same, the conflict of interest.
Sure.
But yeah, I actually am interested to see why those numbers are like that. And also growing up, 10 years ago, you would have thought that, I'm not saying women aren't oppressed, but you would have thought that they had it bad in all categories. When in reality, it's really men, statistically, men that are suffering the most from all these different stats. More men are incarcerated than women. Like you said, all the stats that you brought up, men suffer more from depression, anxiety, suicide, incarceration, violence, not only committing violent crimes, but victims of violent crimes.
Yeah.
All that. And at the why all these stats of men being the higher in statistic, at the same time, the craziest part is there's more women than men in America.
Yeah.
Can't even say, right, you can't even use the, well, there's just more men, so statistically it makes sense, but there's not. There's actually more women than men in the United States. I think in the world, men are actually more, but in the United States, there's more women than men. So then you can't even use that as a counter argument because you statistically, it should be the opposite if there's more women than men. But I don't know. I think that's a question for the ages for sure.
Do you think that it has to deal with our ability to find purpose in life? Do you think that men are having a harder time defining what the meaning in their life needs to be or the purpose in their life needs to be, rather as opposed to women? Right? Because and it's hard to speak on, right? It's hard to speak because we don't know what, right? Like what the way that I look at it, Finis, is religion, right? I think that there's probably something out there that's greater than I am. I would err on that side, but like a strict, like religious, like core belief, right? Like that there is a God, that you're gonna like go to hell. Like that's what I look at when I look at people when they say what their beliefs are, right? It really like kind of get into it more. It's like your deepest belief that you hold as a person, I think that everybody holds, is that you are an individual person, right? That your name is Finis, that you occupy this body and blah, blah, blah. Like that's the deepest belief that you hold. And I feel, at least on men's side, and I can't speak for women, but I feel like that whatever that purpose is for life, people get that, right? And they get that it's as that purpose and that meaning is as deep as the belief that you have that you are an individual person, right? It's unwavering. It's never shaken. Like that is what you're here for. And I would say that based on the statistics and the numbers, that women are finding that answer to that question and holding it within themselves better than men are right now. Or men's suicide rates wouldn't be up, right? Or the violent crimes wouldn't be up, or all this, that, and the other. I don't know. I find it, I don't want to say fascinating, but it's a question that's kind of been lingering in my head because it's a problem, and I don't know that we really treat it as a problem, right? And all the evidence is there. Everything points to that there is that. I mean, when you have men going into schools and shooting up kids, right? Like there is a problem there. You can say that it's guns, and you can say that whatever, like you can point out that it's either this or it's that. The whole thing is that it's a problem. It doesn't matter what's the cause of it, right? It's like, it is when you have shit like that happen in a society and it's overwhelmingly based on one gender, that gender is facing an issue, right? And it's something that needs to be answered.
Something's up.
And nobody wants to answer it, right? And I don't know if it's because I don't know. I don't want to point fingers. I don't have the answer to the question. I wish I knew, but I don't know. I kind of wish that it was taken a little bit more seriously, maybe. I
feel like the reason why it's not being talked about as much or more, I'm sure it's being talked about to an extent. I'm sure there's people out there that like have jobs on dealing with problems like these. But I feel like the reason why it's not a big issue that's being, talked about on a larger scale is because it turns political. Anything that turns political, anything that's political, it's controversial. And whenever it's controversial and you have a voice, depending on where you work, you could lose, you can lose that voice because it's controversial political, or because someone doesn't agree with your opinion, then you could potentially be fired, you could lose certain privileges or certain things that you have based on just that opinion, where, with the whole, men are being oppressed. Saying that is literally controversial when it's like, no, it's not my opinion, it's actual fact. I just talked about this earlier, and I've talked about this a couple of times this week, is 80% of this, and I'm kind of being funny, but not really. 80% of the shit I say is facts. 10% me just joking around with my friends, just bullshitting. And the other 10 is my opinion. And my opinions are generally based on facts, like, whatever. But 80% of stuff I say is facts. Just straight numbers, laws, definitions, straight facts. And it's funny that the majority of the heated arguments I get are over facts and not my opinions. And so, and I bring that up just to say it's crazy how we could have let's say, I don't know, some random person watches this, or we were out having a conversation about how, women in certain statistical categories aren't as dealing with as much or don't have as much of a problem with certain things as men. But because it's a men-run world and men run this country and women are oppressed based on because the men hold positions of power, which is true.
Yeah.
Power, so women are oppressed, but saying our opinions and our viewpoints, that could be very controversial. Luckily, we have a platform where we can't be canceled because I own the rights to all this stuff. And, we're not on like CNN or we don't have nobody's backing us politically, which is why I love this podcast. We can say whatever we want. It doesn't matter if you agree with it or not. You're just not going to watch the shit. But that's why I think the biggest gap between getting to the solution is that this has been made political, which is made controversial, and people don't want to touch that, touch controversial things or topics.
Yeah, and I don't know why. It's frustrating that it would be controversial in the first place, right? Like that's really the first, like, it's hard to say, right? I don't like playing with these false narratives, and I don't like playing with hypotheticals. But if I were to set those stats and it would have been women weren't graduating college, women weren't were committing violent crimes, women were all the mass shooters, women are committing suicide, I feel like it would be taken more seriously. I feel like that it would be acknowledged. It would be acknowledged on a mainstream, or I guess a bigger scale than it is now for us, right?
Right.
It's just frustrating. It's a problem, and nobody wants to talk about it, and then you can't talk about it because you fear that there's political ramifications for talking about it, right? I'm sure that's why a lot of people that are in those powerful positions don't talk about it, because there is the possibility that your words can get misconstrued, right? I'm not saying that we're not over here saying anything bad about women, right? We're just saying that for a certain gender, there are all these statistical categories that they are failing miserably at, right? Like, and by a large margin. It's not like that men are committing suicide at 62% and women are at 61%, right? It's like substantially different,
huge,
like, statistical categories, right? And I think the argument with the suicide one is that men choose more violent ways to go out, right? Like, so like
using
guns and shit, where women will take pills and overdose and shit like that. So I'm sure that there's reasoning, or there's reasoning behind all those stats, but I think that it's fair to say that with the culmination of all those stats, that you can point out that there's a major problem happening. Do you think that there's not a male influence outside of the family on males, right? Like, because like grade school, pretty much all your teacher are women, right? So like, where do you pull that from? You could get it from like coaches, right? Like coaches would be a male influence on young kids. Yeah, because I mean, I don't know.
Sports, so it's that will only count for such a small.
Exactly.
Thing. I mean, it depends. Maybe with extended family, aunts, uncles, or grandpa, maybe.
Yeah, because if you look at it like you get a dad, right? And like if that dad doesn't exist, right? Or the dad's a shitty dad, or the dad's just not good at communicating with their I guess their sons on what the right way to go about being a man is, right? Or and quote unquote what being a man is, right? Or
Right.
hell, even being a fucking human being. Like, you take that out of the picture, then where are you gonna pull that from, right? And it's
So,
like,
internet
you know,
problem.
exactly. And then like you look at mainstream dads on television shows, like they're usually fucking idiots, right? They're usually
Yeah.
like the laughing stock or the butt of jokes or whatnot. They're not taken as seriously. They're not like, I guess I want to say powerful, but strongly influenced, like, or I don't know, the quote unquote what a man's supposed to do, right? So I don't know, man. Like, it's a multitude of problems, and it's frustrating that nobody's talking about it, and it's frustrating that it's frustrating that if you do talk about it, it seems like that you're starting that. Seems like if you do talk about it, a lot of people look at it in the lens is that somehow you're talking shit about women, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um, I don't know. It's been on my mind. I've been thinking about it a lot lately. I don't know. I don't know what the solution for it is. And that's the frustrating part. And there's not one solution, right? It's a
No.
culmination of things.
It's such a complex problem.
But I think that I think it's a good way to narrow it down. I think that a broad thing is that men are having a harder time finding meaning in their life and purpose in their life, whereas women are able to find that at this time easier, right? They're able to, because whatever they're doing is working. Whatever their purpose and meaning in life that they're finding, right? Because that's what drives you. That's what drives human beings, is having the meaning, having the purpose. They're finding that answer to their question at a higher rate than men are right now, by a large margin.
Yeah.
And that's not women's fault, right?
No, I mean, to their points, that's a good stat. Like that, it's not a negative for women,
Yeah.
being able to find that early, it's great. I don't know. That was a deep one, Mitch.
You read
Conversation.
Finis? You read books? You read books? I guess you really can't because all you read is academic literature right now, huh?
Like, for the most part, yeah. I mean, I used to read books. I got like some books on string theories and black holes and stuff. And I bought a book. I'm fascinated with the human body's ability to heal itself. And like cellular regeneration and like the key to longevity. So I bought a book on how the brain can repair itself and repair its body if you do it right. And stuff like that. But I've gotten away from that since I started here at UTSA, because grad school's a beast.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that in college. It's like, why am I going to read something else that's not, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
especially it's history majors. You get a fucking 2 chapters that are each 40 pages long that they expect for you to have read by the next class. It's like, I'm not going to sit there and read a book for fun after that, because you're wasting time at that point, right? You're like, you're reading this and it's for fun, but it's like you should be reading other shit because that's what you're supposed to be doing,
Yeah. No, a lot of the information I take is YouTube now.
So
I watch YouTube stuff.
I've been on YouTube, like a YouTube kick lately. Let me tell you. And I don't know, maybe you do audiobooks or something, but you got to
I love
this,
I can do audiobooks now. As long as I can do other
Yeah.
things, I can. That's what I'm used to doing.
This book right here, this is the first of
I've
3
heard of
books,
that book.
right?
I've heard of that book.
This is one of the most incredible books I've ever read, right? It's when you think of history, people, you think of a history professor that specializes in like maybe like World War II history or Roman history or Egyptian history or a certain very small time period that they get experts on. What this guy is he's a history major out of, or a history major, a history professor. He has his PhD out of Jerusalem. I think it's the University of Jerusalem or something, Jerusalem University, whatever it is, like the head university in Jerusalem, right? And so his history is history of the human race, right? So like take away the Romans and all this stuff. He's like sitting here from you know, whether you're religious or not, whatever, from 70,000 years ago when humans, you know, became conscious to looking at the stages that it took, right? So he looks at it and he's like, he looks at money, right? Money came about because it was no longer helpful for me to go and walk to if I was a farmer and had lemons and wanted shoes, for me to trade lemons for shoes, right? There was no standardized currency for it, right?
Right.
So that's why money came about, right? And so one of the things he talks about is language progressed so fast because in the hunter and gatherer tribes, it's fascinating that in the hunter and gatherer tribes, gossip was important, right? Like, as stupid as gossip sounds, and as lightly as we take it, but it's human nature, right? We needed to gossip about each other so you knew who in your little tribe of, you know, 15 or 20 people who was up to some shit, right? You needed to be able to talk about those people behind their back and then figure out what you were going to do about why this guy's fucking up, right? And like
The survival.
the whole
That's how you
concept,
survive.
exactly. And so the whole concept of gossip was incredibly important for our I guess for the evolution of language and speaking to each other, right? So that's that first book. The second book, I'm not going to pull it down from my bookshelf. It's called Homo Deus, and it's about where we're going, right? And he looks at where we've been at and then where we're going, and like artificial intelligence, what's gonna what it's gonna happen when we start to like merge with machines and AI and all of this stuff, like, because it's closer than we think it is. And then this guy is his third book, which is what I'm on right now, which is 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. And this one's fucking me up right now. I just got done reading about his concept, is that he says that over the past thousands and thousands of years, we've been accustomed for our life to be the first 18 of your years of your life, or 18, 25 years, whatever, is your learning period, right? This is where you learn your shit. And then you go to work, you take what you learned, you go to work, and then you retire, right? He's saying that with the way technology is going, is that you're going to have more learning periods, right? So you're going to have, we're going to have to maneuver as a society to where you learn for the first 18 years, then you do a job for 10 years, and then you have to go back and learn something new for 5 years, and then work for 10 years, and then learn something new, right? So like their stages of life are going to start to get broken up. And like we're closer than people think, and we're closer than people realize to like how fast technology is going, right? But I mean, Chat GPT is just one little thing of it, right? I mean, technology is absolutely exploding, and we get accustomed to it. But if you would have taken our parents back in the 90s and asked them to show them Chat GPT, like even on one of those old ass screens where the computer would be talking to it, they would freak the fuck out, right?
Oh, I bet.
Now we're still freaking out a little bit over it. We're like, okay, that's strange, that's weird, but it's like we've worked our way up to this point, right? With the Siris and the Alexas and all that shit, to where now it's like not quite as unfathomable that I'm talking to a fucking computer program and it's writing intelligent sentences back to me that makes sense, right? So I think that I can't recommend. I needed to. I came on plan to tell y'all about these books because y'all gotta fucking read them, man. Listen to the audiobook, however you do it. Like, it's important shit for you to know, though.
Yeah, I'll probably get the audio.
Yeah, they're good shit, man. Sapiens was fucking insane. Homo Deus sent me into a depression, but yeah, it's all good, man.
Speaking of that Chat GPT, you saw where Joe Rogan had to post about, so somebody created a Chat GPT program that it created a whole hour-long Joe Rogan experience podcast. It was straight AI.
No shit.
Yeah. This was like recent, maybe this past week or a few days ago. That was like a big news. So Joe Rogan had to be like, hey, like put out a warning, like, yo, that's not me. It's ChatGPT. So like that's all AI. That, and there was another big one where they took clips of Tom Brady interviews and kind of got like his personality, put in ChatGPT, and it produced an hour-long stand-up special by quote unquote Tom Brady AI. And apparently, I don't think it's been released, but I was watching a podcast of these comedians, and one of the comedians' buddies said that he saw the hour special. He said it's actually like pretty good for it being all AI without like any
Interesting.
human whatever.
We're there, man.
Yeah, it's
We're
like,
there.
It's crazy, but yeah, I'm gonna get some money into this technology sector. So
Well, Finis. I got Taco Tuesday across the street, so I think that I'm about to go indulge.
Taco Tuesday?
$7.99 all you can eat, bro.
Ooh, where at? Is it a mom and pop shop out there?
Yeah, right across the street from me.
All right, well,
Shit's gas, bro.
y'all heard it here first. Guard 615 with a deep one today from Mitch. But we appreciate you guys for listening. We'll catch you guys next week. We're out.